What is your plan? Tom on the Big Island, a retired police officer from the Big Island. What is your plan to keep organized crime and prostitution out of Hawaii once gambling is legalized? Because it will happen.
Organized crime is here now.
Wow.
We have $1 billion illegal gambling operation in the state of Hawaii right now. People do illegal gambling all the time. You know, this is a state that engages in prohibition. Prohibition of anything like gambling or like liquor is going to lead to illegal events and crime.
Doris in Honolulu just called. There is already illegal gambling in Chinatown. Controlled gambling in Waikiki would curb the problem stemming from illegal gambling. I say let's legalize gambling so as to put Chinatown out of business. What do you say to those things, Sue?
Well,
those aren't decent arguments?
Maybe we could legalize prostitution, or maybe we could legalize homicide or burglary, and that probably would get rid of the problem.
Way out. Sorry.
Well, there are plenty of, some of my economist friends say, well, you know, if you would simply legalize heroin, that would create a lot of jobs initially. You'd have a speculative bubble, but the social problems are just overwhelming. So legalizing things doesn't cure it. Legalizing simply expands the base. As a matter of fact, I've been in congressional hearings back in the 1990s where members of organized crime have come and testified before Congress. In the Witness Protection Program, one in particular. And he said, thanks for legalizing the gambling in Illinois. It just expanded our base. It's like we'd all died and gone to heaven. And the official position of the FBI for years and years has been, quote unquote, if you build it, they will come.
Malama, Lehua on Molokai wants to know, what types of gambling have been successful for Native Americans? Poker, slots, casino, what do you know?
All kinds, I guess. You know, we have a study here that, you know, I wanted to share, but it's involved, and yeah, all kinds. They have casino, they have slots. You know, I went, and we had visited some when I went to Albuquerque with the Pueblos. And they have a great casino. It's kind of a standalone. It's kind of right in their own aina, and it's very well managed. As a matter of fact, they're much more strict than they are in other, like, you know, if you go to Vegas. You know, they don't allow drinking, smoking on the floor. You know, it's orderly. You know, you see a lot of those working in the casino were of the native tribe. And, you know, we talked to many of the kupuna, the elders, and at first they were very skeptical, but now they're very much in support, simply because the tribe kind of makes all of the decisions as to how it's to be handled. And most importantly, where are the revenues going in terms of the profits and how it's being shared. This is the first time that many Indian tribes are getting disbursements, you know, where it's now helping the family directly as opposed to being overburdened by federal and state programs, which I feel that's where the Native Hawaiians have been for many, many years. I feel they've been programmed to death. Our condition really hasn't improved in terms of our health situation. I was simply shocked when I went back to the legislature to realize that now we have 5 generations of the same family now incarcerated in prisons, and a lot of this is attributed to economics.
John, you were going to say something?
Your home state of Iowa.
No, try Michigan.
Michigan, right? The same in the other direction from my home state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin now has 28 casinos. And I grew up in an era where there weren't any casinos, but all of my friends and neighbors were Native Americans, Indians. And they had nothing. I mean, it was exactly like the situation we have in Hawaii, where there was crime, there was lack of education, there was just terrible living conditions and so forth. Those casinos have helped those people enormously. As I go back now 50 years later and I visit with my friends and I see their children and their grandchildren, and they now have wonderful homes, their kids are in college, they've got boats and skidoos, and they've owned their own property. This is something that didn't happen before. Dan, they've got teeth, you know? They've got the ability, they've got the ability now to be middle-class Americans. They never had that before.
These are all nice observations, Dan, and we all would love for this to be uniform across the tribal interests, that it would be, the money would be distributed properly, and this would go to the benefit of all. But the Associated Press did a report just a few years ago, and it looked at all of this and it said, yes, indeed, you can simply focus on some of these positives, but actually this casino gambling, all this gambling, has literally not improved the unemployment rate among tribal members all across the country. The poverty rate is still what it was before the casinos came. The tribal leadership, according to the FBI, is doing great. They're making a whole lot of money, and they can point to some positives, but in fact, it has not helped the rank and file tribal members on a general basis. And that's really, really unfortunate.
I don't think this is a question. I think this is an observation from Daryl on Oahu. Isn't the stock market gambling? Rich people lose their money all the time.
That's right.
I come from a state where there are Native American casinos. If people want to gamble, that's fine. Just let the indigenous people run it. I think you'd say here to that. The plane ride to Vegas has helped save those who shouldn't be gambling. Just before we came in, I asked someone here who works at PBS whether she wants gambling, and she goes to Las Vegas, I think, 3 or 4 times a year. She said, no, I like to gamble in Las Vegas. This is my home. I don't want it here.
I'd like to answer the question about the stock market or the observation.
Sure.
Yeah, certainly the investing in the stock market is a very, very different matter. It is not random. Even people who don't do a lot of work on their investments are not just buying blindly. These are companies, they have records, and there's something to get hold of. In gambling, it's purely random.
Yeah, and with gambling, there's no product. And I'd like to raise one other quick issue. As I was starting to say earlier in the program, I was coming here earlier for years to Hawaii. This is where I spent my honeymoon. This is honeymoon Hawaii to me. This is the paradise of the Pacific. You bring in casinos, it's just, you're changing the whole ambiance. You're changing 60 years of tourism, of hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising Hawaii as the paradise of the Pacific. And I've got not just this, but in my previous life, I got 6 volumes over here in the law school sitting up on marine pollution, the law of the sea. And I've got lots of articles, as do my colleagues, out on environmental law and policy. This is an industry which literally will come in, and it's all about gambling, it's all about slot machines. They have no regard for the environment. I would get calls in my office originally, years and years ago, from Sierra Club and other environmental groups saying they are paving over endangered areas. So I think people need to realize that, in fact, this is a very aggressive, this is the brown tree snake in Fool's Gold.
John, I want to ask you the Wally Fujiyama question. What would your industry do for the community?
Quite a lot, actually. You know, as I said before, one of my personal heroes is this woman here, Marian Ilyich, who has given tens of millions of dollars to Michigan and so forth, and she's received I don't know how many awards as one of the nation's top businesswomen, and frankly, according to most objective people, the Ilyich family has done much to save the city of Detroit. Without it, it would be pretty much moribund. Although the
it's not those Chrysler automobiles.
No, and it is really, it's really interesting on this particular point, because that isn't the situation in fact. Although the professor would like to say so, and he always says it's totally evil. Everything is going to go to hell in a handbasket, and that's not the case.
Well, let me
Can I say something
respond.
To
Sure.
that effect? Thank you. You know, we just had this article. I think that gaming would help us.
Oh, this is Colbert Matza.
Yeah, yes, about our unfunded liabilities for the state of Hawaii, and I mean, it's, we're up to 1.1 billion now on the retirement,
yeah.
And we're going, and it's going to get worse, May I finish?
Sure.
Thank you.
We're not interrupting that much. Come on, Mom.
Okay, well, people sign and everything else on the side. I mean, whatever. Okay, So, this is something that I think gaming could contribute. If we're looking at a freestanding casino, our thoughts in the legislature is that these monies would be earmarked. They would be going for certain kinds of programs. I don't think that, our thoughts are not just to put the money in the general fund, and we go on a spending spree. I think that this is something that we're deliberately looking at as to how we can solve a problem such as this, which is going to be more than $1 billion, as the baby boomers are all starting to retire. These are the kinds of questions that the legislature has been wrestling with for years. And we're a hospitality industry.
Malama, we've got a minute left.
Okay.
Let me just ask ask this question very quickly.
How would I solve
Are any of these bills going to make it through the legislature this session?
I think
What's
so.
your guess?
Yes.
You think so?
I
What
think
do you
so.
think is most likely? Which
The
one?
freestanding casino.
You think? Do you think one will get through this year?
Yes, I do.
Richard Barreca says he doesn't think it's going to happen.
He's
The
usually
great
wrong.
columnist
Have you
from the
noticed-
Star
have you noticed
Advertiser.
how wrong he is all
He's
the
one of
time?
my colleagues in punditry. I believe in him. You think one will make it?
Yes.
You agree it's the freestanding casino?
Yes.
What do you think?
I don't think so. The legislature has held firm for many years, and I think they're going to be there this year.
Have you counted the votes? You think the votes are on the side of the coalition?
Sure trying to, and we're working on it.
John,
I'm not going to make any political prognostications.
guys from Chicago are supposed to know how to do that.
I want to bring my wife back here for our second honeymoon. That's what I want to do, and I don't want casinos
Thanks
here
a lot.
when she
And I
comes.
want to put this on the ballot.
We're out of time. Thank you we appreciate all the calls and comments, and I'm sorry, obviously a lot of opinions out there. And thank you, John, Sue, Malama for being here. Next week on Insights, we'll examine the health of Hawaii's hospitals and emergency medical system. Since Hawaii Medical Centers closed on Oahu, how are the remaining hospitals filling the void? What's needed to ensure that we all have access to critical medical care? That's next time on Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Dan Boylan. Ahui ho.